world's most amazing cities for aviation. As a central hub globally. Dubai only started 20 years ago, so halfway into that process, I think it's fair to say, we realized that the new buildings that we build, they must be of a high energy performance. We can't just build traditional buildings in the desert. We have to build outside the box solutions for this harsh environment that we live in. So the UAE in general are very, very ambitious with their energy targets, and as you can see there on the screen, by 2050 there's an aspiration for reducing the carbon footprint by 70%. Only yesterday I seen another great article from the Green Building Energy Group in Dubai, which are a fantastic group to follow, where they said basically at the moment, currently, there is a total built-up area of respective sustainable programs in Dubai of 26.9 million square meters. So what does that mean in numbers? That's approximately, just doing some quick maths there, that's nearly 4,000 football pitches of live sustainable projects in Dubai alone. In Abu Dhabi, it's a similar story. They're up to, you're talking 5,000 football pitches of sustainable built-up area in the construction industry. So there's a huge opportunity for people coming into the industry to work on some amazing projects that have never been done before. So just to factor that in and think about that as you enter into the industry. So as I said, there's all kinds of policies and strategies now being implemented to ensure that new buildings provide the most efficient energy performance standards. So just moving on there, it's actually, to be honest, it's not just about clean energy. It's across the board. It's improvements in energy intensive industries. Oil and gas is a huge industry in the Middle East, and it's a key focus as well for saving energy. Energy and water efficiency is a key factor as well. Transportation and infrastructure, and the waste management sector, recycling materials. So overall, it's sustainability doesn't just relate to buildings, but buildings are a huge part of sustainable development. So this next slide, I just wanted to kind of give you a feel as well. Obviously, as I mentioned, Dubai is relatively in its infancy compared to some of the other major global cities. But look at what they've built in the last 20 years. You have Palm Islands, you have the world's largest tower in the Burj Khalifa, you have skyscrapers lining up the length of the Sheikh Zayed roads, and really these are all big energy consumers. But the aspiration is to ensure that Dubai becomes carbon neutral, or as it has a minimal impact on the globe in terms of energy consumption. So there's a gap there and an opportunity for students and for people in the industry to develop new ways of designing buildings. And this is what we want. This is the message we want to relay to the students that are about to take part in these competitions. So the role of a building performance rating system to achieve sustainable energy. Obviously, we've got the education, so providing a good understanding of energy and water materials, how we use power in buildings as well. So educating the designers to basically design to the best practice. Awareness as well falls hand in hand with education. Understanding that certain design decisions will have a massive impact if not considered properly. Also examples, looking back on the past and always thinking, how could we do this better, is a key standard. And then policies and standards as well. There's so many. What I'll do is I'll touch on some of these policies and standards that are applied in the industry further down. But these are all tools that we use as engineers to ensure that sustainability is always number one priority when we're designing buildings. So as you can see here, I've provided a bit of narrative as to the timeline in terms of sustainability and how it was first derived. As I mentioned earlier on,
Hello?
In 1987,
Yeah,
it was first mentioned by the World Commission on Environment and the department. So
Yeah.
WCAT in 1987. After that,
No,
it
it
really
started.
came
It
to
started, man.
life. You
It
had in
started
the
at
early
12.
90s, as I mentioned,
Yeah.
BREEAM
When it
UK
started,
was brought in,
you're
which
joining
is
in.
the British energy rating system that's
Okay.
applied actually across the world beyond just Britain now. And after
Yeah,
that,
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
really, if you look further down along the timelines there, in
No.
2006,
Mm.
Lead
No
Emirates was
problem.
applied
No
for
problem.
Dubai.
No
So
problem. Okay,
there was
man.
all
Take care. Bye bye.
Dubai was only just
Bye bye.
ramping up in terms of what you see today, and it was only then that the energy standards were brought into the UAE, and after that, over the next 10 years, there was so many other standards brought in. So it's, as I said, like, it's in the grand scheme. I know you guys are coming in the year 2020 into the industry, but in the overall grand scheme of things, the energy sustainability and best practice design standards is something very, very new, and there's still so much to develop. So that's it's a key message that I want you guys to understand. Where are we going next? We have this climate emergency. How do we improve on the things that we do today to make sure that tomorrow is in a better condition? So just briefly, I won't spend too much time on these slides, but basically we just want you guys to understand, when you're designing for the competition, that you consider energy as a key perspective of your outcome and the project. How are we consuming the energy in the building that we're designing? As you can see here, there are various loads within a building that consume power, and one of the biggest factors there is the AC, especially in the Middle East. There's up to 25% of the total power consumption in the building. Lighting is also a huge factor. See, the green is the AC, air conditioning, and then purple there is receptacles, so small power, so the power that people consume for computers and various day-to-day power requirements. You can see there in the yellow, lighting is also a big player in the consumption, with the nearly 16%, and green is fans. So if you were to add up the total colours associated with ventilation, you're taking up almost half of the building load. So the chilled water consumes up to 25%, and then in addition to that, you have the fans that blow the air into the buildings for another 15%. So overall, you're looking at nearly 40% of the total building consumption. So there's huge opportunities to try and reduce these down even further, and there's all kinds of efficient measures that can be applied to make sure that we get the most out of these building systems that we apply. Passive energy conservation measures is a huge factor in any building design, and this would always require solid foundational coordination between an engineer and an architect to ensure that the building is positioned in its optimum location. So in terms of maximizing internal daylight, but also not creating too much heat gain within the building, you have to position your building in a way that basically accepts the daylight, but doesn't accept the harsh direct sunlight from the middle of the day in the morning as it rises. There's also natural ventilation. So there's all kinds of passive measures that can be applied to buildings to ensure that they behave in an optimal energy consumption manner. And then we have active energy conservation measures. So what do we do once we have ensured that the building is optimally designed from a passive measure? We have active measures that allow building operational hours and system setbacks, utilizing the latest technologies in terms of building management systems. We have intelligent lighting controls, so that when spaces are unoccupied, lights turn off, similar to ventilation in some cases, but also smart building systems is a new area of innovation in the industry, and a key focus for how we can get the most out of our buildings. We also have renewable energy and sustainable technologies, which is as an electrical engineer, as myself, I'm hugely interested in photovoltaics, harvesting sunlight to create power. is it's a technology that's been around for a while, but it's now becoming more and more efficient, and it's really exciting to see a lot of new buildings factoring in solar power as a way of creating additional sources of power instead of just the usual taken from the grid. We also have solar, thermal, and hot water, which is a new standard in Dubai. Every new building has to factor that in. Wind turbines. It's not as effective in the Middle East as it would be in Europe, but also a very valid technology in its right application. We also have atmospheric water generators, hydro energy, and geothermal energy as well. So extracting heat or cooling from the ground is also an amazing technology that we can also consider when we're designing new buildings. So as I said, earlier on, there's a water shortage globally, and there are all kinds of innovative solutions that can be applied to water. So when you're thinking about designing a sustainable building, don't just think about the power, also think about water as a key focus for making sure that consumption is not over the top, and making sure that it's as efficient as possible. And then beyond the renewables, the passive measures and the active measures that we apply in buildings, we also need to consider materials, making sure that the materials are a key focus. So I think that's about me there, Imran. Are you okay to cover the competition brief?
Yeah, that's fine.
Excellent.
Can you flick on to the next slide?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so now we're at the competition brief side of the presentation. So like Marc touched on, CIBSE strongly believes in developing the students and young engineers in the region. And that's why there are lots of regular activities which are arranged locally as well as internationally to support the students and young engineers. So the design competition is one of its kind initiative in the region on a massive scale, which is aimed to enhance students' knowledge pertaining to building services, integrated sustainable design principle, which is a very important process in the industry, which you would have seen in the previous slides, which Marc put on. So the competition is aimed towards the design of a net zero office building located in Dubai, UAE, which is also in line with this year's CIBSE theme towards sustainability and net zero. So we want to take this forward to the students' side of things as well. So it's a unique opportunity for the students, given that CIBSE has a global reach in various countries. So students can showcase their skills, and it's also unique because you're studying a lot of theory in your university. Now, having participating in such competitions give you an opportunity to put it on the apply it in a practical application, which is very important before you get into a professional role or become or take building services as a professional career. Next slide. Yeah. Okay. So the main goals, like I mentioned, is to get acquainted with the building services industry, obtain an experience in the integrated sustainable building design process, learn teamwork and coordination with different departments, or even with partnering universities over sustainability, MEP, and various other aspects of the project. So the skills are very important when you get into the professional environment which we work in. Last and most important goal is to explore students' creativity and innovative ideas. Now, like Marc also mentioned, you guys are the future of the industry. So we would like to see the creative approaches that can add value to the industry. And we never know, some of the ideas can be the new trendsetters in the region. Next slide. Okay, so the competition is basically a desktop study and needs to be submitted as a technical report and a 15-minute visual aid, either a PowerPoint or a YouTube video, or any other visual aid which you can think of. Um, the report will include the supporting diagrams, drawings, models, etc. And then, like Mark mentioned in the previous one, it needs to have a strong focus on sustainable design, energy efficiency, um, and also on the flexibility of design, which is currently looked at. Like many of the people are working from home with the current COVID-19 situation. So, what strategies can be embedded in a building like that, which can assist the new normal, which is working from home or flexibility? The competition obviously needs to take into the international standards, which is mentioned in the guidelines which has been provided. Um, in terms of the assessment criteria, 25% of the scores will be towards the design approach, which is your flexibility as well as the massing orientation, and 25% is towards engineering, which is what system you select and how it impacts the energy and how it embeds well with the architecture of the design. And then the rest, the other 25% is towards sustainability and wellness, which is a very important part of the competition, and that actually defines uh, the title of the competition, which is net zero or towards net zero. The other 25% is towards innovation, because it's very important that we get some innovative ideas, which can be a trendsetter in the region. In terms of the prizes and awards, so we think we'll be shortlisting 3 to 5 universities as a finalist, and the winners will be given a prize money of 5,000 AED, and and also you'll have a opportunity to include your entry into the technical symposium for consideration as a poster project. Well, there'll be publishing of the project related article in the CIBSE official blog, and you'll have an opportunity to present in the CIBSE UAE Net Zero conference, which is planned early part of the next year. The runner-ups will get a prize of 82,000, and they'll also have an opportunity to present in the CIBSE UAE Net Zero conference 2021. In addition to that, like I said, I mean, the intention is to promote building services in the region. Obviously, there is a price tag associated to the competition to spark interest, but is also to, I would encourage all to participate, and all the universities will be provided with participation certificates, the names, the shortlists, and the runner-up and winner details will be published on the CIBSE website, social media platforms, and local newsletter. So, and there is a recognition side of thing as well, along with the general objective to promote building services. So, which works well, for the students as well as the participating universities. In addition to that, all students full times are eligible for free student membership, which we'll see in the next slides, which will help you again in your final year projects, given the vast amount of information available on the knowledge portal and the CIBSE journal. In terms of the deadline, we need to get a confirmation from the universities, if not already, by 10th November. So the 10th November is the last date for participation. So we'll expect the universities to confirm the participation along with a list of students and the team name, which we can use for the record and publicity purposes. Last date to submit the report is 15th February 2021. And then we'll have an independent panel of jury, which will be again recognized people from the industry, from architectural side of things, from the sustainable side of things, from the building services side of things. So they will be the judges, and they'll decide the winners and the shortlist. And once we do that, we'll have the finalists announced between the period of 1st to 15th March 2021. And then the winners and the prize distribution will happen in the CIBSE annual dinner and the awards, which is planned between 15th to 30th March 2021. So that's the very short brief on the competition. There's a very detailed design competition brief document which has been set out. And then following the next section of the presentation, we'll open the floor for question answers or any queries so we can discuss further on that. Over to you, Nizam.
Yeah.
But just before we jump over to Nizam as well, I just want to add as well, and thanks a million for that, Imran. But in addition to the prizes that we see on the screen, the recognition that Imran mentions in terms of your involvement with a competition like this will go a long way towards your initial introductions into the industry. So when you start to look for a job in the industry, and you mention on your CV that you have been involved in the participation of a CIBSE competition for best practice sustainable design, that is obviously a fantastic talking point within your first interviews as you start to commence your career in building services and sustainability going forward. So just, obviously you always keep that in the back of your mind as well. The prizes are great, fantastic, but also your career recognition is a huge factor that goes into the making of this competition also. So without further ado, we'll hand you over to Nizam, who is involved with our Young Engineers Network.
Yeah. Thank you, Imran, and thank you, Marc, for such detailed information on sustainability and the design competition. What I'll be taking you through is the YEN committee and what we do for students and what our social media presence is. The YEN committee, like any other committee, is headed by two main people, that is the chair and the vice chair, who direct the committee in the activities. And then we have some other roles within the committee, which are the communication officer, the technical officer, and we have membership, education, and the secretary roles. On the right, what you can see is the current committee structure. We also have some student representatives from Manipal University who represent CIBSE at their universities. Marc, can we go to the next slide?
Yes.
Yeah. So we host a plethora of events for students mainly. As you can see, the pictures which show the presentations from CIBSE YEN at Heriot-Watt University and at Manipal University related to how students can enter the building environment industry and how they can make a career and what modules they need to take to go in this direction. And then one interesting workshop that we had for students of Manipal University is with IMI Hydronics, where they got a practical session on hydronics and fluid mechanics, so they could relate the workshop to their theory classes, mainly focusing on fluid mechanics and hydraulics. Yeah, Marc, can you go to the next slide?
Yep.
We are also very active on social media. As you must have seen already that we have a LinkedIn profile, we have a Twitter profile, and we also post our webinar videos on YouTube, and we also make similar posts on a LinkedIn page. And we are always looking for student representatives to join the YEN team, and if there is anyone who is interested to join the YEN, they can drop us a message on LinkedIn, or they can drop us an email on the official email ID, which is also mentioned on the LinkedIn page. And that's it from my side, and I hand over to Marc now.
Yes, many thanks, Nizam. That's really good introduction to the Young Engineers Network, and something that actually wasn't available when I'd started out in college, but it's a fantastic starting point for students in the industry to really learn more and interact with people that have recently left university and just embarked on their career journeys. So it's not a huge leap between the student and the well experienced engineer. You've got you have people that are maybe not that much older than yourself as a student, just starting out in the industry. So it's a great place to interact with people of your own age, but also with more experience, and just it gives you a really great start in the industry. So by all means, I hugely encourage anybody interested in sustainability and building services to join up with Yen and be an active member in all of the great events that happen throughout the year. So with that's all of the slides we have today, and really what we want to do is just open the floor to any questions that might be of interest to anyone that's obviously participating in the competition. And if you don't want to speak on the mic, well, by all means drop us the question into the chat there, and we can respond accordingly. Or alternatively, if you want to reach out with an email, that's fine as well. But if anybody has any questions now, by all means, let's allow some minutes to ask those questions.
Yes, I see Nathan's hand going up. I think you're on mute.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nathan. I'm a graduate student from Manipal. My question is to Mr. Mark. So, in my brief internships in my previous internships in Desert Inc., I remember Bureau Apple being a part of projects where you were helping us out with various software analysis for projects. So I would like to know, like, what all softwares do you consider when you're doing when you're analyzing if a project is sustainable, or if it's feasible or not, so that we could also integrate it or look into those softwares while we're doing our analysis.
Hi Nathan, that's a fantastic question, and I'm delighted you asked that as well, because it's something that we've spoke about before the presentation. There was actually a slide there that Imran had presented where it was basically a 3D model of a building that had been designed using a software called IES, so Indigo Echo Sierra. If you Google IES, that is at the moment the best calculation software available for determining all kinds of sustainable measures in buildings. When I was studying my masters, I was using IES to passively design a building in its optimum orientation, but then also being able to integrate sustainable measures into that building. So renewable technologies are applicable, efficient energy systems inside the building, and you're able to simulate how that building performs. So it's a fantastic tool, and I highly recommend all of the participants to explore that tool and really try and use it to its optimum advantage. So I hope that answers your question, Nathan.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Regarding the format of good evening, everyone. No. Sorry. Yeah. Regarding the format of the submission, will the details and all of it will be posted in the brief?
It is actually already included in the brief. So we issued a document with the title. So if you go into the section 5 of the document, that gives clearly what is expected out of the document, and what are the guidelines, and what are the timelines for submission. So that includes everything. So basically, like I mentioned in the presentation, it's more like a desktop study, in which a report is expected from each university, and also a 15-minute presentation or YouTube video, any visual aid which supports your submission. So the report will include all the related calculations or the drawings and sketches which you guys will be putting together.
Okay.
And then like section 5.19, there's a title in the document which is called scope of work, and that includes for each discipline what is expected from the architectural, structural, electrical, pH, HVAC, sustainability, etc.
Okay.
And like I mentioned, the grading will be on the four main schemes, which is your design approach, um, and then on the engineering side of things, as well as the sustainability and wellness, and finally the most important one is innovation.
Okay. And also, what about the membership that you were talking about?
Yes, so membership is open for all full-time students. So either you can approach through your university, sending as a consolidated list of all these students who wants to become a member, and we can forward it to CIBSE HQ, or you can do it directly by visiting the CIBSE website as well.
Okay.
So it's quite open and it's quite easy to do it.
And
Okay,
I
thank
understand
you.
it's free. It's free for students to join as well, isn't it?
Yes, it is free. It is free for full-time students to join in. So there's no charge basically to participate in the competition, as well as there's no charge to become the CIBSE student member and enjoy all the benefits like the CIBSE journal, access to the knowledge portal, and the various publishing books and articles, journals, etc.
Yeah.
So you can take advantage of all of that while doing your report for the competition, as well as for your final year thesis. And even if you're young engineers, you get a lot of knowledge and benefit out of it. Be it
Can I
be
add
mechanic.
something?
Yeah,
Sorry.
sure.
Yeah. So, no, sorry. You finish, and then I will add one thing.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say, be it be mechanical, electrical, public health, or electrical, electronics. So it covers all the disciplines. So there's value for each discipline to become a part of CIBSE student member. Go on, Farah.
Uh, I just wanted to share something with all the students. Research is extremely important part of not just for you, but for all of us as well, who are working in the field. For two reasons. First, to see if you have come up with an idea, most probably another person somewhere might have come up with the same idea in a different part of the globe. So having access to knowledge share and actually researching your ideas and your thought processes is a really good way to see what other synchronicity or similar information you can find, because that's a great way to refine your own thinking. And it's not just for this competition, but anything you work on. Even as professionals, we constantly, well, I thought when I joined work, I don't have to do research anymore. And I was so bloody wrong, because I realized in the professional life, you have to do more research because the market is constantly changing and new emerging technologies and innovations are coming in. So as engineers, all of us have to keep up to date. And I can see Marc shaking his head, and so is Imran, because yes. So I would really.
But that's what makes the industry so interesting, Farah, is the constant evolution and improvement on things in our industry is it's just it keeps it so interesting. Every day is different. Every year, there isn't a week that goes by where I don't learn something different. Even though we're still building things, we're still constructing, but it's a constant evolution of improvement and different ways of doing things. And you never know everything. You'll always have to learn something else, and you have to enjoy that process as an engineer.
Exactly, and also I often participate as a judge in different competitions, and sometimes I find students, when they come up with a really great idea, they're kind of afraid to find out whether anybody else in the world had the same idea and what did they do. And I would really like to open this conversation up to each one of you who's listening to this. It's okay if you have a great idea and someone else came up with it before you or with you, but what's important is to find a unique edge on that idea. So I think we all, this is something we all experience, but try to be open when you're researching, even and interrogating your own idea, and be open to allow yourself to share that knowledge within yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. Nathan has just followed up with some further questions there. He's asking, is there a budget limitation for the proposed design?
Okay, I'll take that. no, there's no budget limitation as such for the proposed design, but we need to be mindful that whatever we are proposing is kind of realistic as well, suitable for the local climate. That's where the research factor comes in, and that's where what Farah was highlighting is key, that the research is undertaken. It's also important where you are working on the energy side of things or sustainability side of things. You look at the life cycle cost analysis as well. So whatever the strategies you're looking at should have a reasonable payback, which adds benefits to the project. In terms of the second question, should the proposed design target any specific group or sector? Well, at the moment, the competition is focused on office building. Reason being is with the COVID-19 and the current scenarios which is happening, we see a paradigm shift in the office design, or way the offices are operating or will operate in the near future. So that's the specific sector which is being focused through the competition at the moment. The third one is, will a basement parking be considered within the built area? At the moment, in the brief, if you see, we said the parking will be on the ground floor itself, because having a basement parking and then allowing the systems to mechanically ventilate that will add complications to the building. So we want to keep it simple. So at the moment, there is no basement parking considered in the brief, so you can neglect that. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, and then I think that we're probably coming to the end of the questions there, but just in addition to everything that was discussed today, CIBSE UAE have also released a number of design guidelines to help you guys in your application of the various sustainability practices. So we encourage you to have a look at those documents. There's one document for every discipline, so electrical, mechanical, public health. There's a separate document, and it breaks down the local design standards and what can be done to achieve energy efficiency in relation to those disciplines. So I think that's, unless anybody else has any further questions, we encourage, obviously, if there's any questions, but by all means follow up, send us an email, and we'll get back to you as quick as we can.
I have a question for Marc and Imran. How much details do you want the students to go into? I think sometimes some students might go quite a lot of detail, and some students might. So how would you advise them to create that balance?
You want to go first, Marc, or you want me to go first?
I'll let you go first there, Imran. It's a great question.
Okay, thanks, Farah, for that question. Yes, I mean, that's the intention, to set up the scope of work in the competition brief, so that at least a general idea is presented in terms of what is being expected. But still, I mean, it's open to the universities to come up with their innovative ideas and present or highlight a different approach, which is better than what is given in the brief. So it's a bit open in that regard. But the section 5.19 of the document clearly highlights what as a minimum is expected in the write-up, which embeds on all the different disciplines: the architecture, structure, MEP, sustainability, etc.
Yeah, just to add to that as well, obviously this is an engineering project, and the theory is key, making sure that the foundations are correct. But for all engineers in the industry, your theory, the theoretic side to the solution, is only as good as the presentation and your communication to the wider audience, be it the client, be it the reviewer of the competition. So there has to be a strong focus on how you present that information. So to just leave it as a a text document, I think you'd be doing yourself an injustice. So focus on on how you present your information, be it diagrams, be it images, be it photos. The more images, the better, in my opinion.
I totally agree with that, Mark. And what I would encourage all of you is, once you come up with a design solution, try to take a step back and actually tell us your story of that design. Because sometimes we are so embedded within the design competition or design solution, we don't take a step back to see, okay, how do I tell my story to a person who doesn't know the nitty-gritty details? So make sure you give yourself enough time and space. Tell us your story of the proposal that you're submitting, and ensure your submission package really brings out the essence of your solution. And lastly, I would say it's common sense, but sometimes it becomes a big issue, is that please do a spell check, because if a submission is done and there is spelling errors and grammatical errors, it just shows that not enough effort has been given to actually thoroughly check things. So I would really highly encourage to remind everyone to do that.
Yeah, just to add on that as well, there is a benchmark in the region already, which is a solar decathlon competition, which is hosted by DIWA. So if someone is really new to this process, they can also visit their website and look at some guidance documents from there as well to get a head start.
Absolutely. And then I think we have one question there. Someone stuck their hand up. Shravan, do you have a question for us?
Yes, hi. It's a question regarding the report. So our submission is a report and a visual aid to the report, right? So the report,
Yes,
does it have a limit so that we know how much information we can put in regarding the calculations and the details?
Over to you, Imran.
Yeah. No, as such, there's no limitation, but generally, like what we have seen in the past, it ranges to like 4,000 to 10,000 words, but there's no specific limitation as such. But it needs to be presented effectively, such that it's considered, and then it's not overwhelming where all the information is just copy pasted from different articles and journals.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's to be honest, that I wouldn't focus on the word count. You know, that typically I know universities have a word count for their projects, but really it's what we want to see is the outside the box thinking, the creativeness of the students coming into the industry. Obviously building on the foundations of sustainability and seeing how far you can push the boundaries. Because we're looking to you guys. We want you guys to show us things that we might not have thought about. So if there's somebody that comes up with an innovative technology from you guys, this is what it's all about. It really kind of showcases the journey that the students are taking to get to sustainability.
Thanks for that, Mark. I think there are some questions coming in the chat box. Someone has asked any considerations to be taken while selecting site. You need to consider that it's in a developed site. It's not a brownfield or reclaimed land. So that's the only thing I would suggest to be considered. The next one is it possible for the previous winner works? Now, we don't have any previous winner work at the moment because this is the first time you're organizing it for the CIBSE UAE in the region. But you have the opportunity also to partner with other universities locally or internationally should you have any shortcoming in any of the disciplines. So that is an opportunity there. The other thing, like I mentioned, you can look at the work done by the universities in solar decathlon competition or even the ASHRAE competitions as well. That will give you a good head start as well. But the intention, like Mark said, is your creativity and innovative ideas need to come in rather than more of a copy-paste scenario. I hope that answers the question.
Absolutely, it does for me anyway.
Any other questions?
But obviously, yeah. The area as well, Imran. It's got to be in the UAE as well. It's a Middle Eastern project.
Yes, absolutely. So that's clearly spelled out in the guidelines. It's the building is located in Dubai, UAE. So and the guidelines, the climatic conditions, and the technologies proposed should be suited to that. But you have the opportunity to partner with other universities which are abroad. But our contact will be through the local universities in UAE.
Good stuff. Okay, well that's about everything then, I think, is it?
Yes, I think unless there are any other questions, I have dropped in the email address in the chat box. It's uae@cibse.org. So you can always get in touch with us if you have any further queries. If required, we'll organize another webinar session in the middle of the competition to see how the participating universities are going and address any further queries at that time.
Excellent. Well, listen, I want to say thank you for everyone's attendance today, and really good luck with the competition. Be as creative, be as innovative as possible, and we look forward to reviewing your submissions in due course.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
everyone. Thanks for joining in. I'm looking forward for the participation from the universities. All right.